China is one of the countries in the world with the least racial discrimination and prejudice. No matter which country people come to China for tourism, they will be warmly received. But on the internet, the situation is completely different. Since there is no Western-style political correctness in China, almost any speech exists on the Chinese internet as long as it does not involve China's political issues. There are more than 1 billion netizens in China, many of whom are keyboard warriors, and I am one of them. Chinese people like to give nicknames to other countries and incorporate their prejudices against these countries into them. In this video, we will list which countries have which nicknames. 1. The United States. As China's favorite and most hated country, the United States is the country that makes Chinese people feel the most complicated and intense. America, in Chinese, Meiguo, means a beautiful country. It can be seen how much China liked the United States in the past. The United States helped China resist Japanese fascism in World War II, helped all mankind from the fear brought by fascist tyranny, and saved human civilization. In China, it is regarded as the most trustworthy ally. But after the CCP came to power, the United States has long been the #1 enemy of China's ideology, so the United States has many evil names. For example, Meiguo Guizi, which means American devils, and American imperialism. Especially in the Korean War, the two sides directly fought against each other. The United States naturally became the second country to enjoy the name of devils after Japan. After the reform and opening up, China regarded the United States as its goal to learn and catch up. The Chinese people, from the government to the people, have a positive view of the United States. The United States has become the object of envy of the Chinese people with its advanced productivity, prosperous culture, and rich living standards. In addition, relatives of senior CCP officials and social elites have immigrated to the United States in large numbers, so the United States has once again become the country that the Chinese people most yearn for. During this period, Chinese netizens still like to call the United States the American imperialism. They satirize the Chinese government and blame the conspiracy of the United States for any mistakes in governance. However, this name is a joke and cannot deny the Chinese people's love for the United States. As China's national strength increases, the United States began to blockade and contain China in an all-round way. Especially after the Sino-US trade war, the relationship between the two countries has become increasingly tense. However, the new generation of Chinese netizens do not like to replace the United States with ideological names such as the American imperialism, but have invented names such as PiaoLiangGuo and PiaoLiang. PiaoLiangGuo means pretty country, and Daopiaoliang means big beauty. Both words imply that the United States is beautiful on the surface, but ugly on the inside. This satirizes that Americans are sanctimonious on the surface, standing on the moral high ground, and upholding universal values, but in fact they are instigating wars everywhere and suppressing developing countries. At present, there are still a large number of American fans in China who are called American dogs, because they identify with American politics and culture and hope that China will learn from the United States. At the same time, American dogs call the fans of the Communist Party of China Fenhong and Wu Mao, satirizing them as accomplices of the Communist Party of China's dictatorship. But these two groups are not the mainstream of Chinese society. Mainstream Chinese netizens still positively affirm the advantages of the United States, but they believe that the dispute between China and the United States is a dispute over national interests, not an ideological dispute. They hope to defeat the United States in a head-on competition to pay tribute to their former teacher and current competitor. 2. Japan. It should be said that Japan is the country that Chinese keyboard warriors hate the most. Because Japan has caused serious trauma to China in several wars in modern times, a large number of Chinese have died in the war. Most of China has been ravaged by the Japanese army, and Taiwan has also been divided by Japan. The nicknames of Japan include Guizi, Woku, Little Japan, etc. Guizuk is a nickname unique to Japan. If there is no prefix, it refers to Japan by default. It describes the Japanese as being as cruel as the devil. In fact, the crimes committed by the Japanese army in the war have indeed repeatedly broken the bottom line of human civilization, and are even worse than those of Nazi Germany. That is the key reason why the Chinese hate Japan. In the city of Nanjing alone, the Japanese army massacred 300,000 unarmed Chinese civilians. Japanese officers even competed with the number of killings as chips. So whenever the relationship between China and Japan is tense, Chinese netizens clamor to nuclear Japan and wipe it off the face of the earth. Woko, is the name of Japan in ancient China. There are many theories about its origin, but the Central Dynasty has always regarded itself as the center of the world and believed that Japan is a small border country. In the Ming Dynasty, some Japanese ronin and samurai colluded with Chinese pirates to plunder China's coastal areas, causing heavy losses. Until the famous general Qi Jiguang led the army to pacify the Japanese pirates. Therefore, the Chinese like to use woku to refer to Japan, thinking that they are Japanese pirates. The term Little Japan originated from the fact that Japanese soldiers were generally short during World War II, which was an insulting name for Japan. In addition, this term also satirizes Japan's small land area. But in fact, although Japanese soldiers were not tall during World War II, their nutritional conditions were much better than those of the Chinese army, so they were stronger. And their individual combat capabilities were stronger than those of the Chinese army. In addition, they were well-equipped and often won with fewer troops. If the United States had not intervened, it would have been difficult for China to defeat Japan. Although Japan's territory is not large compared to China, it is not a small country in the world. Its territory is equivalent to 1.5 times that of the United Kingdom. It is surrounded by the sea and has a population of more than 100 million. It is an absolute great power. The Japanese are self-disciplined, hard-working, and willing to learn from the strong. The Chinese people agree with these advantages. Therefore, various verbal attacks on Japan are just emotional venting. The Chinese are not actually anti-Japanese. On the contrary, China actively introduces various Japanese cultures, such as animation. When Ayumi Hamasaki came to China for a concert, most of her Chinese fans couldn't get tickets, which shows how popular she is. Ordinary Japanese people do not have to worry about safety issues when traveling to China. The Chinese are very friendly to the Japanese, both officially and privately. They believe that the war is a crime committed by the Japanese government and should not be blamed on ordinary people. 3. South Korea. Like North Koreans, South Koreans are called Bangzi by the Chinese. This is an outright discriminatory name. Some people say that it is because the Korean errands in the ancient Chinese army were called Bangzi. Later it became a name for Korean people. Others say that during World War II, as a colony of Japan, a large number of Koreans joined the Japanese army to help Japan invade northeast China. These people often hold sticks to help maintain order and oppress civilians. Therefore, the Chinese call them Bangzi, which means stick in Chinese. But in any case, this reflects the Chinese contempt for North Korea and South Korea. To be realistic, although the Chinese have a lot of hate speech against Japan, most of them are emotional venting. The Chinese do not hate the Japanese, and there are still many people in China who like Japan. But the Chinese really hate Koreans. In other words, Koreans should be the only group that is indiscriminately hated by Chinese netizens. Historically, the Korean peninsula has always been a vassal of the Central Plains dynasty and accepted the canonization of the Central Plains dynasty. But modern Chinese also have a negative attitude towards the ancient tribute system, believing that it is a waste of national strength and meaningless. Chinese people also don't like to look down on neighboring countries with the attitude of the Central Dynasty. However, North Korea, as a country saved by the Chinese with hundreds of thousands of lives, has no gratitude to China. In addition, Kim Jong-un's family has a hereditary system and cruelly oppresses the North Korean people. Chinese netizens hate them very much. Various jokes about Kim Jong-un's family are very popular on the Chinese internet. Kim Jong-un is also called Kim Fatty 3 by the Chinese. His father Kim Jong-il is Kim Fatty 2, and his grandfather Kim Il-sung is Kim Fatty 1. Most of the North Korean people are hungry, and their family is the only fat person in the country. As for South Korea, as a small country, it is arrogant and thinks it is the center of the universe. In addition, South Korea often steals Chinese culture, such as Koreans invented Chinese characters, Confucius is Korean, etc. So Chinese netizens feel disgusted when they mention South Korea. Therefore, Chinese netizens use Bangzi to refer to North Korea and South Korea. The former is North Bangzi and the latter is South Bangzi. But these are all online opinions. In reality, Chinese people do not discriminate against Koreans, and tourists are also welcomed. There are 2 million Koreans in China. They also know themes of North Korea and South Korea by Chinese netizens, but they don't mind, and even jokingly call themselves Bangzi because they know very well that China is one of the countries with the least racial discrimination in the world. As a minority, they not only have no inconveniences, but on the contrary, there are various preferential policies, such as extra points for the college entrance examination. They have lived in China for a long time and have never felt that they are foreigners. They are the real masters of this country. They can feel how the Han people get along with them in a friendly manner.